Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum. I'm Scott Wright, the CEO of ClickArmor and Chief Engagement Officer. Are you ready for Cybersecurity Awareness Month? That's the question for today. This is our 61st live Cybersecurity Awareness Forum for August 27th, 2025. And today we're going to explore what makes a successful National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We've done a few of these sessions over the 3 years or so that we've been running the live panel sessions. A few of them focused on Security Awareness Month. So it's always good to revisit, get some new ideas and discussions going. So I'm going to introduce a few new panelists in a moment, or have them introduce themselves. Just 30 seconds. Let us know who you are, what you're passionate about, your role, and then we'll get started. So just a quick reminder, Cybersecurity Awareness Forum is an open collaboration group for anybody who's passionate about security awareness and human risk management. And if you're a security awareness manager, security professional, or even a business manager who's concerned about cybersecurity and human vulnerability, then you're in the right place for the next hour. So I'm just going to do a really quick review of our where people are coming from. We have North Carolina, we have Ottawa, London, Montreal, uh, Bordeaux, France. All right. Saskatchewan, uh, more in Canada, Victoria, BC, Charlottesville, Toronto, Ottawa, Boston, Scottsdale. Wow, that's great. Columbus, Ohio, Santiago, Chile. Awesome. So really good distribution of people from all over the place. And we even have an AI assistant. We actually have a couple of these every once in a while now doing, just gathering, soaking up all this good information. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let our panelists introduce themselves really quickly. Just let us know who you are, what your role is right now, and what you're passionate about. And then we'll get into more of a discussion through my panel questions. And we're going to do some polls throughout. You might see the poll questions pop up. We'll spend some time at the end just reviewing the polls, getting people's comments and opinions on them. So I will start with Ross. Ross, you want to let us know a little bit about yourself?
Ross Mensler. I'm the Director of Integrated Security for Cornerstone Capital Bank. Security awareness is a big passion of mine, primarily around cybercrime and community outreach is kind of the big things that I try to focus on.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Ross. Theo, would you like to go next?
Yes, hi Scott, and thank you for having me on your panel. Theo Zafirakos, a cybersecurity professional for over 25 years. I'm an independent consultant. Over the last 8 years, specifically to cybersecurity awareness, I've helped over 300 organizations design and implement cybersecurity awareness programs. So I'm extremely passionate about the topic, especially since whether on the offensive side or the defensive side, we're dealing with a human element and that interests me a lot.
That's excellent. Theo and I've actually known each other for a few years when you were in your previous role, but as I know, you've been really helpful to a lot of organizations, so we're really privileged to have you here today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And Shelley, how would you like to go next?
My name is Shelley Matisik. I'm actually coming with 9 years cybersecurity awareness training as a program manager for the consultants with a security vendor and have been on a strategic break for the last 2 years, actually getting my son ready to get out of high school and launch into the world of adulthood as an apprentice, which he just recently completed because
Nice.
there's a lot of rakes out there for those kids to step on. And with that in mind, excuse me, I've been just kind of keeping abreast of the cybersecurity world and security awareness training because, like Theo, again, I'm very passionate about the human factor that plays into what people are seeing every day on the day-to-day basis. So as I get ready to tip my toe back in, Scott's graciously invited me to share some of the stuff we did at my previous vendor
Mhm.
and help people plan some of these easier to navigate security awareness programs for
Yeah, times are
Cybersecurity Month.
changing.
Yeah, they really have.
Excellent. Well, really good to have you. I know Shelley's been with us many times on past sessions, so really good to have you on the panel today, Shelley. And finally, Mitchell, who's also been on some of our sessions before, but not as a panelist. So welcome, Mitchell.
Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm Mitch Kowalski. I come from Columbia, Maryland, and actually I'm currently a free agent. So if anybody wants to stick around and talk afterwards, we can do that as well. I have over 20 years of experience in cybersecurity. Definitely a passion for security awareness, the human element. I mean, anytime you read about a breach, it really does boil down in some capacity to a human element. Um, Making sure that people are aware of their roles and responsibilities, but even just being aware and what's around them and sort of how everything is connected is just very interesting and wonderful to talk about and again, make people aware about security awareness.
That's awesome. So this is going to be a great session. Lots of amazing panelists and a few other people joined that I didn't mention where they're coming from. There's California, Galena, Ohio. Thanks very much. So, all right, let's jump in. I'm going to share a few slides. And as I said, anybody can make a comment or ask a question as we go through. These are some slides that I used previously in my workshop back in July and started out with an interesting question, why have Security Awareness Month? Some people say, well, if you're going to have Security Awareness Month, you should have months for every other, conceivable cause or, marketing or outreach, initiative. So I think there's an important reason for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And in my view, it's not about education at this point. It's, want to spend some time to make people aware that they are vulnerable and aware of how they're being targeted. So that's the way I kind of like to use this opportunity for a month and just get people more engaged. There's a lot of other reasons you might have. So if you have an idea of what you think, a good objective or a reason for having Security Awareness Month is, please put it in the chat. And I'm just going to briefly back up because there's actually a bit of a history if you haven't heard it. It was around 2004 that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the National Cybersecurity Alliance started up. And originally they were focused on just giving out tips, but they started doing a month of October session eventually, or a focus, where they could, come up with a theme and do things, that would be more coordinated. And some trivia that I came across in the last year or so, which was, we used to use the acronym CSAM for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Anybody know why a lot of organizations are not using that term anymore?
Can I take a guess? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Autocorrect corrects it to scam.
That's a good one. Actually, I haven't heard of that one. Yeah. No, it actually stands for child sexual abuse material. So we really don't want to be associated with things like that. So usually we use NCSAM or SAM. I don't mind saying Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but I wouldn't use that CSAM acronym. So just a point for everybody. Yep, Terry got this one. Good stuff. So I also wanted to raise a little bit of awareness on something I talked about in July, but in Canada, there is a government organization. It's sort of a joint operation between what's called the Communication Security Establishment and their cybersecurity. Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, but also with Public Safety Canada, who is more generally around public safety issues. And so they run something, they have a website called getcybersafe.ca where they publish a lot of great information. We actually had somebody from Get Cybersafe on our July workshop, so it was really good to have them. So I'd love to just sort of hear from people in the chat how many have actually made use of getcybersafe.ca. We've had people in other countries say this is a resource they use regularly because they come up with some really good graphics and messaging. So we're going to talk about what they've provided in their theme for this coming October for the Canadian initiative. So I think Francis Harrison has made a note here to say that Cybersecurity Awareness Month is crucial to the workplace perception that cyber is exclusive to the IT team, whatever that is. So that's really trying to make sure that regardless of what the topic is, everybody is it's everybody's business to promote cybersecurity and work securely. So love that interpretation, Francis. Thanks very much. So Any other thoughts about Cybersecurity Awareness Month? Basically, what I wanted to just outline here is what are the things that we're generally looking at when we plan a Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and the panel will have lots of discussion tips on this. But the way I put it out there is that, first of all, you want to look at what's your role and your mandate. Do you have, some reason in your job to be doing this, or are you doing it out of, your own initiative? And then can you get commitment for an official program, get some budget, set some goals, find people to collaborate both internally and externally, and then look at what are the activities and timings you need to do to get things done on time. A lot of times I've found in the past, I had good intentions, but by the time October 1st comes around, I hadn't really done the things that would need to be done to get everybody lined up. So that's why it's really good to start early. That's why I started in July, but a lot of people are still thinking about it and looking for really quick ways to get some value doing this. So these are the things that that I would put out there. A couple more quick notes. Budgeting, if you don't have a budget, you need to sort of create a business case for your management. If it is in your mandate and you want to do this, you're going to have to look at, how much does it cost? How will you manage it? What are the resources you need? And most of all, from a management business case point of view, you want to look at what will the organization get out of it in some sort of return on investment. So looking at who are the colleagues who can support your vision and lobby for you with management to get that business case approved. So I'm going to just pause here. I have a few other slides, but just wondering, is anybody on the panel have any thoughts or comments on the things that we've talked about already here to sort of set the context?
Well, I could go first, Scott.
Sure, Theo.
Back to your previous slide when you talk about what is your mandate, what is your role in the program. Do you have a program in place, or are you just trying to do something for Cybersecurity Awareness Month? Because that would be a completely different challenge.
Right.
If you already have a program in place, think about why you have a program in place. Do you have to respect external requirements, external regulations, external pressures, or internal compliance with policies and standards, and try to align with those. If you don't have anything in place and this is the first time you're doing something, well, you're going to have an uphill battle just to put something in place. So I hope most organizations do have a program in place, but you'd be surprised how many don't.
Yeah, and maybe now is if you're just starting now, maybe you just got put in that role, right? It's a good time to start collaborating with people on this call and observing the kinds of things that are being planned, so that in the next year you can start putting together a program that is more substantial, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So this is a link that I wanted to share. Usually I put up a QR code so it's easy for people to get to with their mobile if they want to, but getcybersafe.ca/cyber month is where you can actually get a ton of resources from the Get Cyber Safe program. And I'm going to go through a few slides here that just outlines their current messaging program for this year. And it may or may not fit what you're trying to do in your organization, but if you are sort of as Theo said, you're just starting out and some of those things you're still working on, but you need to get to what am I going to communicate? What kind of messaging is going to be useful this year? Well, the Get Cyber Safe program has actually put together a set of, I'm going to start my poll program later, but I think I didn't. Sorry about that. I didn't actually put in the slides that I wanted to, but what I was going to say is that the Get Cyber Safe program, if you go to that getcybersafe.ca/cyber month, you'll see that they have an overall messaging program, which this year I should have had it on the screen, but basically is preparing for the future or preparing our cyber selves for the future. And that means, setting up good account practices, hardening your devices. And what they do is they have messaging for each week of October. So they'll have 5 weeks of individual messaging that cover different things, and it progresses in a logical way. So if you're interested in, maybe leveraging that stuff, I would highly recommend that. And you can find them on social, on LinkedIn, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So that's just sort of some of the background that I wanted to cover in this. I'm going to come back to this slide in a few minutes. I wanted to just sort of show you something that we've done at ClickArmor to help sort of accelerate or launch something if you want to get something going. But I'm going to start with a poll and get people engaged here. So we'll get this going in a second. Poll question 1. And I'm going to let the panelists vote as well. So, what is your biggest challenge when running Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaigns with limited resources? So, is it lack of time, lack of budget, low employee engagement, content creation, leadership buy in, measuring effectiveness in meeting objectives, or just coming up with the objectives in the first place? So, I'm going to let this poll run for a little while. And we will move on to a question for the panel. And so usually I'll do a round table on the panel unless panelists want to raise their hand and go first, or if you have a comment that you want to follow up on something that somebody else made, just raise your hand and we'll get to you. So first question is, how can you prioritize and plan your National Cybersecurity Awareness Month activities when time and resources are limited? So looking for tips, people like Theo and Mitchell and Ross and Shelley have had a lot of experience working with people and different organizations with varying amounts of resources. So I'd like to maybe start with Theo and say, what have you seen that would help people prioritize and plan that initiative when they don't have a lot of resources?
And so here, the first thing you want to look at is the delivery method for your message. So we know what we want to tell our users. How do we get it in front of their eyes? And look at resources that you have control over that maybe don't require the intervention of the communications department or another department to publish or push your message. So what can you deliver? What can you control? All right. And that would be the easiest way to get your message across. Obviously, you require planning, so plan ahead of time. Don't wait for the last minute, because then if you are dependent on another department or somebody else, may be more difficult to get your message across. So focus on the delivery method. How do I get my message in front of the eyes of my audience? Oh, you're on mute, Scott.
Thanks for that. So that's sort of your biggest risk when it comes to putting this program together. That's the thing you really want to make sure you've got nailed down, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
If you have an awareness platform, that could help. If you have an internal website or a portal that you could leverage, if you have an internal social media site or group on Teams that you could leverage. So there's a lot of methods to get your message across.
Excellent. That's great. I'm going to go to Mitchell next. Any thoughts, Mitchell, on sort of what people can do to try and make the best of what they have with limited time?
Yeah, I mean, the key to what you say when you say limited time, I mean, the best one or the one that was most engaging that I worked on, I had several months to plan and was able to travel. We had several key data centers and locations that we were able to go to. So I was doing almost like a traveling show for security awareness. And that was good because you're face to face with people, you're talking about security. It's not necessarily a here, watch this video, or it's not doesn't become a training as much as it just becomes a collaboration and working with them. If you're talking about how to get the most out of limited, obviously the resources like you just pointed out with the planning, the 5-week planning, but in addition, you know gamifying is it you sort of just want to get the word out of security and let them know. Yeah, can we apply it? But if they're starting to think about security, if even that word comes part of what their development work is, or even if they're doing HR, right? And HR goes, oh, how do we have to integrate with security? It's your opportunity to really just get that term out and make it part of the everyday vernacular for everybody that you're working with.
Very cool. So I guess, yeah, I mean, it's nice if you've got those resources, like you said, right? But that's a really good idea in terms of what you want to focus on if you have limited resources. Ross, I'll let you go next.
Yeah, the thing I would add to that is making sure that you set limits as to like what can you actually achieve during the month. So whenever we've been planning out security awareness, like National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, some years we try to bite off way more than we can chew. So it's, what can you get done and what can you execute well. So maybe that's just a kickoff email on the first day. Maybe that's, a newsletter that you send out one week, and maybe it's a webinar that you set up or something like that. But just making sure that you have time to set all of that stuff up. I love the gamification. I love all of those items. But if you're 30 days out on planning, you might not have time to set all that stuff up right now. So just getting something out there and making it look like you didn't just throw it together on October 1st is usually a good thing, I think.
Yeah, for sure. A little bit of planning as far ahead as in advance as you can, obviously, will be really helpful. Shelley, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we ran across a lot of when we were working with clients, looking at that limited resources and time factor, is that we would strongly suggest that they don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't try to build something from the bottom up. There are so many resources out there right now that are free, whether it's from, the National Cybersecurity Alliance. CISA has free resources, SANS, InfoSec IQ, KnowBe4, who's a vendor, but they still have some free stuff that's out there. Go to those places. A lot of them have really great toolkits that are already built for you. They have videos, they have collateral to hand out, they have posters you can print off. They have white papers, all kinds of things that are already built. Doesn't have to be just from one vendor, but you can sort of pick and choose and put together a really great program fairly quickly if you go to those specific resources and know what you're looking for. To Ross's point, what do I have the ability to get done and get done effectively? So you know that going in, plan that ahead, and then go out and find those resources. I think that one is really critical, along with if you have a security awareness program that you're working at right now. My advice to people was always, pause your simulations for this month. Cybersecurity Month is not about simulations. Don't task yourself with this big program and try to do simulations at the same time. You're just going to overburden yourself. Recruit guest speakers from some of these vendors that you work with, whether it's your security awareness training, your human resource management training or vendor, sorry, whether it's those folks. A lot of those have speakers that they'll offer. Some of the security vendors will offer speakers, and you can hold little mini webinars, just ask them for 15 minutes a time and put that on at a lunch break. If you're in a local region, have them speak about a certain area of security. We had a lot of success with that, getting that done. Excuse me. And the other thing I would say, and this is maybe a little controversial for some folks who are, I know where you come from, is limit swag. I worked at companies where they handed out a t-shirt to everybody, a squeezy shark to everybody, Swedish fish to everybody. That takes a huge amount of time, takes a huge amount of resources to organize those for most people, especially for larger companies. Kind of stick with something maybe like a drawing, or if, win a free lunch, register for that, but it requires participation, number one, to get a little something back. And the best one, my favorite one, is free, which is just offer company-wide recognition. Weekly call out people that have done really great in the past, over the past 12 months, and have leadership call them out in an email that goes out company-wide. Put them on the sign-in screen, the login screens in your company. Anything like that seemed to work really well to get people engaged, but it is still about participation. You don't want people to check out just because they're not getting a simulation, but you want
Right.
them to be engaged. And I think those are things we've had good success with working with companies in my prior experience.
That's really cool. Yeah, go ahead, Theo. You had a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to add another resource for information and material is the National Cybersecurity Alliance. The creators of this event, so they
Yeah,
offer a lot of resources online that are available. And don't try to do too many things at once, right? If you do have the go ahead and you do have an ongoing program, leverage, say Privacy Week, or Internet Safety Day, or Password Day in May. So there's a lot of other opportunities throughout the year to provide some communications for additional topics.
that's awesome. And I see Shelley just pasted a whole bunch of resources in the chat. So for people who are here live, make sure you check those out. And Simone also suggested reframing things that can become stale or repetitive, password discussion, things like that. It's a good chance to bring things sort of up to date, for example. And people mentioned gamification. I'm going to have a little show and tell for somebody for all you guys shortly. But what I'm going to do next is start our next poll. So first, bring up my presentation, and we'll launch that poll, which is which activities or tactics have driven the most employee engagement in your previous security awareness efforts. So, this will be some good input from the participants here, and we'll see what kind of output they provide to us. So then we'll move on to our next question for the panel. What types of communications and activities resonate most with employees? So aside from, the high level of how we plan for stuff with not a lot of resources, if you've had things that, had provided a lot of value with little effort, for example, or less effort, these are things that people like to understand. So I'm going to open it up to the panel again. If anybody wants to start it off. Otherwise, I'm going to maybe start with Mitchell.
Okay. No, I think the communications that I've had success with have been your brown bag lunches, whether that's been in person or virtual. Selecting a topic and making sure again that it's somewhat polished. Again, like Ross was saying, you don't want to just throw something together. If you throw things together and then present it, that becomes a priority, what people remember more so than, let's say, the content of what you're describing, right? So really the webinars, the brown bag lunches, and then anything that we've done where we've had a newsletter but replied back to the newsletter with an answer to a trivia question or something like that, and you're in the running for a drawing for a gift card to Amazon or something like that. Again, giving that recognition, whether it's a prize or being recognized in the next newsletter as well, has gotten a lot of positive feedback.
That's great. Good advice. Ross?
Yeah, I think it depends on the culture of the company. So in my previous company, we had really good luck with setting up webinars, and we'd get like 80% participation across the company. And we did self-hosted webinars on artificial intelligence and how that might affect them in their job. My current company, podcasts seem to really hit home for a lot of people. So that's been an easy way to communicate with people. And then any way that you can try to get engagement. We've had really good luck with in person and just not staying hidden. So if a lot of departments do department meetings, we would offer to come and speak to them at department meetings. And if we had enough planning time, we'd try to tailor whatever we were talking about to more or less their job or what they really might see, because what a frontline customer facing person might experience from a cybersecurity standpoint might be different than what we go and talk to IT about or something along those lines. So if we had enough time, we'd try to tailor it and meet people where they were at, so we're not overcomplicating it. And then we try to do some community outreach events as well. And so that really was trying to meet people, whether that's chamber of commerce or something along those lines. Enterprise grade security at a bank is a lot different than mom and pop security, or whenever you're talking to an elderly community or something like that. So just making sure that all the content is relevant to them, I think, helps with that communication as well.
Very nice. Before I move on to Shelley and Theo, I just wanted to highlight Simone made a really good comment about, it's a good time to take an opportunity to have a name or a face for your program, right? So a lot of times I work with security awareness managers who kind of are shy, or they're not certain of their role, but it's actually a great opportunity for them to show some of their strengths and their knowledge and leadership, and it will give them probably a better career path if they can become more visible. So it's an opportunity, maybe not for everybody, but it is definitely interesting, an opportunity there. And also just wanted to mention Arnold had to drop off, but he had a really good long comment about things that I think are opportunities as well to position and maybe review your strategy for the whole security awareness program during this month. And that can give you visibility with executives and show, that we're providing some value in the whole program. So I'll let Shelley make any comments she has at this point, and then Theo.
Sure. I think just sort of building on what everybody said, when you think about the whole month, we've talked about calendars and planning that out. I think it's when you're doing that, it's important to keep it tight. Pick 4 subjects, 1 per week, and really focus and hone in on those specific things for that week. Don't try to cover the encyclopedia of cybersecurity awareness training topics in 1 month. That's too overwhelming. People will sort of check out for that. And I also think that soliciting those champions in those departments where the messaging will be held out is important to sort of get them on board. They can help you throughout that week to reinforce it. They can also plan locally little events that they might want to do with their teams or their department heads to encourage that participation in that week and that taking that information away. And then also making it relevant not only to what they do at work, but what happens at home. Because everybody's getting on their telephones, hey, you have a toll. Hey, you didn't get a package because your address is wrong. And I'm so tired of seeing the same text and the same phishing and vishing and smishing attempts, but obviously they're effective. So let's make sure everybody is at least hardened in their personal life. That will bleed over into what they do at work as well. So I
Yeah,
think keeping the
especially
themes tight.
with so much bring your own device these days.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Keeping those themes tight, though, I think is important because you can't overwhelm folks with it. Pick a theme, start the week off with it, and wrap it up with maybe examples of what those types of phishing look like. And here's the call out clues are you might look at. But again, pausing sims
Yeah.
so that people don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Theo.
Well, my cybersecurity team has to do better marketing. People like real stories, not hypothetical events, what if this were to happen. We need to share more of actual events, actual incidents, what happened, what we protected, how, right? Maybe we don't need to disclose all the details. Cybersecurity incidents or even breach attempts tend to be sensitive. But people need to know what is happening and what we're protecting, how the action or the inaction of an employee, without necessarily naming them, helped protect the organization, helped us remain operational. We didn't have to shut down the factory. Not everybody had to go home or lose their jobs, right? Because we were a victim to a ransomware attack. So share those success stories, anonymize it as much as you can. If you don't have any specific events, look at the news, look at what's happening at your peers, colleagues, competitors, bring them up as an example and say, this is why we're doing what we're doing, right? This is what happened. This is what happened. This is why it's important not to bypass the controls we have in place. This is why we have them in place. So share those stories with your users.
That's a great point. And Francis says, that's a great point, Theo. The days of assumed authority can't persist. Cyber needs to show value, and practitioners need to be salespeople. So we have to promote this whole story, right? And I think real stories that can be somewhat anonymized or obfuscated in terms of actual, people or threats that were involved. But somebody has to realize that this did actually happen. It's not just something we've made up. Excellent. Ross, did we get to you? I've lost track of who's commented on this one.
Yeah, we did.
I think we all
Okay.
did.
We all did. Okay. All right. I'm going to move to our next poll question, which is what support or resources would be most valuable to you in planning your next Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaign? Is it content? Is it testimonials from leadership or advocacy, champions to help spread the word, or just turnkey communication templates, measurement reporting tools, or a community for collaboration? So I'm going to launch that poll right now. And we will move into our last question. But before we do, I want to do a quick demo. We've talked a lot about gamification here, so I'm going to take this opportunity to blatantly promote ClickArmor since we do sponsor this series. And oops, I just did the wrong thing. And that's one of the reasons that I love doing this is to be able to share things that we've done at ClickArmor. So if you guys can see this screen. So if you aren't familiar with ClickArmor, we're a gamified cybersecurity training platform. It's built on a gaming engine, which makes it highly interactive and very flexible. So we can create basically, as Ross said, tailored content. And I think that's some of the value that we have is making things relevant to people. So when you put out a lot of different content, but it's generic, then people kind of don't relate to it very well. So we've created a platform that's highly flexible, it's very interactive, and it employs gamification at multiple different levels. So I'm just going to show you what we've created for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And this is something that if you're interested in putting something together quickly, this is based on, it's a series of 3-minute challenges, we call them, that are interactive, and they're based on the Get Cyber Safe program. So in terms of their themes for this for this year. So basically, the first lesson or challenge, 3 minutes, is preparing your future self today, and it will go through what you can do to get prepared. And once you've got that information, we do a quick interactive um, lesson or exercise, and we go on to the next one. We might have a few things here that we can select. I'm not going to do them all correctly necessarily, but you can sort of see how this all makes things interactive. I'm going to just jump to one or two others. That would have been for the first week in terms of preparing yourself. The next challenge will be on something different. So it's on bringing your devices up to speed or hardening your devices. So we provide a bit of content here. This could, as I said, could all be modified. But then we have, maybe a magic 8 ball kind of thing where you can answer some questions, get some feedback. And the thing that really makes this engaging for people is it's not a lot of work. It's kind of fun, and because it's interactive, it keeps them engaged. And it's not just clicking through stuff or, watching a video. So we find that this methodology itself is really good for all kinds of training, and we use it for in virtual phishing simulations. We have a virtual inbox where people can sort things. But we do this 3-minute challenge for the 5 weeks of National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And we have a really good deal for people if they're interested in it. So I'm just going to go back to our session now and share my screen, and you can see, let me see, here we are. If you're interested, clickarmor.ca/NCSAM. So that'll help get us together and talking about how we can help you accelerate something that you might want to put together quickly for Security Awareness Month. So we've got the poll running, and my last question for the panel is, how can you measure the success of your NCSAM activities? So that's something I mentioned early on in my context slides. If you have a mandate to do this, and you want to put together a program, you're going to need a budget, you're going to have to do a business case. And the business case means you've got to show management what's going to be the value of doing this. How are you going to contribute or make it worth what we're spending on it? And so that means you're going to want to have to somehow measure things. So this is something I'd love to get insight from Theo and Shelley, Mitchell, Ross, on where have you been able to get good metrics for value, showing the value from these sessions. So I'll go Theo, Shelley, Mitchell, and then Ross. So Theo, do you want to go first?
Yes, the traditional methods that we've seen are either surveys or interviews, but those don't always work because, again, it's on a volunteer basis, and people who are not interested will not participate in your survey. So you're not going to get a lot of data. If you can, you have to measure where the user action takes place. Can I observe user behavior into my systems? Do I have system data that tell me how quickly they click, or are they reporting incidents? Are they calling the help desk with a malware that has infected their computers? So if possible, that's where you need to focus on to get real data from all your users, not just those who voluntarily participate. If you cannot do that, then you need to collect survey data, on the courses or the training themselves. If people appreciate it, you have to do it immediately after the activity. Forget about sending a survey a week later or so on. People will not bother participating. So just try to get them to give you some feedback right away to be able to collect that data.
Excellent. And I'm going to jump in because you just mentioned something really important to me, Theo, and that is the survey information. I'm going to just say quickly the ClickArmor platform, we can embed surveys right in the exercises. So as soon as somebody's had the learning experience or the exercise, we can ask them right away, did you find this educational? Did you find it engaging? And that way we can take the data right out of that to management and say, this is what people thought of it and how much value they got. So really glad you mentioned that, Theo.
Brilliant.
Shelley.
Actually covered most of them. I mean, I think he's probably taken the wind out of a lot of my sails here. I think surveys to that point um, are super important. And I like the surveys where you're asking them, hey, how can we improve this? Because it shows me that they actually paid attention. They provided something that said, hey, when you did this, it didn't work. As opposed to, did you like it? Yes. Did you like it? Yeah. Did you do this? Yes. Where they can just sort of click a box and get through it. If I
Yeah.
can get a little bit of a survey with some feedback on it, that tells me that they were actually engaged and it's relevant to what we were trying to accomplish. And then again, just looking at your numbers, your stats that you're able to collect hard data on. Have you seen improvement in simulation participation? There's always that sort of gray area where you never find out, are these people looking at it? Are they not looking at it? Are they ignoring it? Are they on vacation? You have that sort of gray space where you don't know whether they interacted with it, didn't interact with it, or reported it. They just kind of live out there in the ether. So checking those simulation numbers, I think, is important if you run from a simulation platform. Again, that reporting. And then looking at your SOC and working with them and finding out, hey, are you seeing more things um, getting interacted with when they come through? Are you seeing an increase or a decrease in what you're catching before and or after the fact of it coming in? So the hard data numbers are hard. Putting hard data that makes good sense to simulation awareness is, security awareness is hard as it is hard enough as it is. But this, I think you really have to look at to drive home Theo's point and your point, Scott. Those surveys I think are invaluable because it shows that they were engaged and you can provide that back. And then just looking at if you've seen a change in behavior, whether it's simulation participation, reporting and telling us about bad stuff, and then actually seeing if people are interacting with stuff, continuing to interact with stuff as it comes through, and you're having to catch that on the back end.
Excellent. I think Mitchell next.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to beat the proverbial dead horse at Theo and Shelley, but when you talk about, are more things being reported, are more incidents or events being reported, that may not mean that there are more events or incidents, but it does mean that people are aware and that's what they're looking for. And I think that's helpful to some extent to get an idea of whether the message is getting out there. Again, are you reporting, you look at your phishing simulations, see what they're being reported. Again, that helps you to tune maybe what your security awareness discussions are in subsequent months. Not just because trying to go beyond 1 month of cybersecurity awareness, but you have a year-long program. And then something that I said earlier is security something that is just naturally discussed when you're getting ready for there's a development, right? You have your next project being developed. Is security naturally part of that conversation? Are you seeing it being included in the development lifecycle for what you're working from? And I think as your awareness protocols increase, hopefully that is something that just naturally takes place.
Excellent. Ross.
Yeah, I think echoing a lot of what people have said so far. And I think one thing that I would preface this with is it's a slow cultural change, at least in my experience. So we started really ramping up security awareness training and outreach, 5, 6 years ago. And it took 4 or 5 years, and then we got a lot more engagement. And so what we noticed over that time and how we started to track how effective our program was our mean time to detect going down, where end users detecting things faster. Our incident rates went down quite a bit, so we just had a lot less IPS alerts due to malware or AV alerts because people were not clicking on links that they shouldn't have been or going to websites that they shouldn't have been and stuff like that. So, tracking all of those metrics over time was good. The involvement engagement. So one of the big things that we tried to do was position security as a business enabler to enable business and not block business. So really, were people calling us? We got to the point over 3-4 years where we were the first call that business units were making if they were trying to onboard new software, new products, new vendors, whatever this may be. Up into like being called even before IT, because we became very helpful on with trying to figure out solutions for people. And I think that was one of the less quantitative ways that we felt like our program was really working, was just becoming that first line, that first call for people to really enable the business to move forward.
Awesome. Excellent. I think I'm just going to start looking at our poll results now. So let's go to poll question number 1. So, which was, what's your biggest challenge when running security awareness campaigns with limited resources? So number 1 was limited budget. So not a lot of money to spend. The other was low employee engagement next, and then third was lack of time. So want to ask the panel, any comments on those? Any surprises there, or things that we could take as insights?
For the limited budget, some of the things that we did to help offset that, we use Fiverr quite a bit and kind of crowdsourced a lot of our awareness posters and stuff like that, which was a cheaper way to do it than some of the paid for content. And then the other thing nowadays with ChatGPT and stuff like that, it becomes a lot easier to create custom content than what it was in the past.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
I think also to Ross's point, leveraging that AI wherever possible, and I'm just starting to tiptoes into this space, to schedule, send communications, organize it, plan your calendars. Any way you can leverage AI to do that, because it is a tool and it can go out there and look at everything everybody's done. I think that's a really great way to look at those budgetary and time constraint things, as well as I'm just going to throw a couple more things in here that I thought about because I'm having an ADHD moment. Using sort of the month to reinforce organizational policy on security, sort of echoing what your policies are. People might have sped through the reading when they signed on with their paperwork at the beginning when they were hired. So I think sort of reinforcing what that policy expectation is for your folks is important. And then to Ross's point with looking for resources, and to your point, Scott, when you pointed out the things in Canada, we want to make sure that we're not thinking just locally. We kind of get global when we're looking for those resources. Almost every country on the planet has a specific site set up for cybersecurity. The EU has one, Australia has one, Canada has one, the United States has one. And especially if you have your organization stretches globally, you don't want to just think in the country you're in. You want to think about how that might impact them in a different country. We look at that a lot with SIMs sometimes, so we don't want to lose sight of that. I'm sorry, when we're looking at this. And then just looking at budgetary and time constraints, we need to look for opportunities where there's space available. I know in sales, when I would try to sell people something, they'd say, oh, no, we don't have room for that. Yeah, you do. You just have something else in the space that's not selling. Let's figure out what we can do with it. So whether that's the login page, you're putting up a little blurb every day. We know you work for Chase, let's say. So instead of putting the Chase logo when you log in, maybe put something up there during the month on that login screen so that they can learn something and take away in that moment. Look at opportunities in stand-up team meetings. Slack was mentioned before, newsletters, anywhere you can get some space to get that message out. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be gorgeous, but just enough from some of those free resources you can get to put that message in there throughout the month will help reinforce those things.
Excellent. Great points. Just apologies to me. I had some wrong graphic or text in that slide, so I took it out, reshared it. But Theo, you had a comment.
Yeah. Just quickly on the low employee engagement, you have to get creative, and not every activity has to be active. You could have passive activities, right? If you have people in the office putting a poster in the cafeteria next to the printer room, or on the way to the bathroom on the corridor, right? So people will passively see those messages, or have a VP or the president talk about cybersecurity during a town hall, or other group meeting. So there's a lot of ways where you get your message across passively.
Perfect. And Mitchell?
Yeah, I would just add, speaking about the lack of time, my mind immediately goes to, the situations when I first learned of cybersecurity awareness, right? A month, and that was, 2 weeks before, versus, and are you planning or able to plan a year of cybersecurity awareness, right? And being able to ramp up, let's say, in October to support Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but you have other campaigns that you're doing throughout the year. For a lot of people that are, this cybersecurity awareness is not, they're not able to use that as their full-time job. But if you're able to plan and plan a year in advance or plan the year out in advance, I think that will help in appropriately planning and being able to deal with some of the other issues that are listed here that you're dealing with, whether that's a limited budget or engagement from other people.
All right. Ross, any last thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean the other thing on engagement, if you can figure out ways to get people engaged into cheap activities, one of the things that we did was a scavenger hunt to kind of teach people how to do social engineering and basically just do research primarily on myself and some of the other security team. So you can try to get people involved in that way and then teach them through fun games that are relatively free.
Very nice. And thanks to Michael Wager, who did a quick, I think, AI-based summary of this session and put it in the chat. So take note of that if you're looking for insights. Finally, I'm going to move just next to the next poll question, which is which activities or tactics have driven the most employee engagement. So phishing simulations, interestingly, I know Shelley was saying, let's pause simulations for the month. But I guess it depends on how you do it. Any thoughts on what the most engaging activities have been? Second in this poll was gamified quizzes, and interactive content came next.
For phishing simulation, depends on your size of your company and how large you are. One of the things we did, which this does take some serious time to organize, so you have to have some leeway there. But we had all of our business units craft phishing emails directed at another business unit, and then we did a point system. So like 1 point for clicking on it, 5 points for opening an attachment, and then every time that an email was reported to the security department, you lost points for that. So we'd run that campaign during October. We'd get templates from them, build those templates, and then send those out. That was incredibly impactful for our company, but we had 50 business units and all of them were actively engaged in this, and we had the manpower to be able to do that. But that was one of the better ways that I think that we've seen phishing simulation get involved.
Yeah, you
Interesting.
can make a tournament out of it, just like Russ said, something like that, where you have a phishing tournament. If you're going to run sims, again, I'm a big proponent of don't run sims if you're going to do a program, but if you're going to do a light program, you could do a phishing tournament with that. You can run sims. It just depends on how deep into the actual program part of that you're going to get in terms of celebrating that month. So I can kind of renege a little bit on my sims comment, but I think it all comes under balance. What am I able to execute well and effectively? So, but to Ross's point, those phishing tournaments, we had great success with those too during that month. And I love when they would craft them with one team against another team. That peer pressure is a
Yeah.
very effective tool.
Interesting. Okay. Theo?
Yeah, live webinars or a kiosk at the lobby, giving the opportunity for your employees to ask questions for the things that they care about, right? That also will get them to be a little bit more engaged.
Excellent. Very good. The third poll question was, what support or resource would you most find valuable in planning your next session? So leadership support, leadership advocacy, or testimonials was the option, and employee champions and ambassadors. So people to help spread the word, and pre-made templates. I think no, pre-made awareness training content. So hopefully the stuff that we've created for ClickArmor for your 5 weeks of messaging, 3-minute challenges, interactivity, hopefully that could be useful to you. Before I move on though, any other comments on number 3 in terms of what has provided, what people feel has provided the most value from their activities?
Well, I mean, I think, having somebody other than the head of security talking about security, uh,
Great
you
point.
know,
Yeah.
brings a certain level to everybody else to think about it, right? And it's kind of like when you're telling your kids something, and then or you're telling them something and don't do this, but then a grandparent comes along or a friend of the family comes along and says the same thing. That for whatever reason has more impact than what you have. And I think in some of these cases, when you're talking about securities and your do's and don'ts,
Yeah.
somebody outside of the security group, whether that is an employee ambassador, a champion, or leadership of some capacity, saying that.
That's really interesting. In fact, I was going to add to that because Theo and I both worked for one municipality at one point, and in following up on the training that was done, I helped them with their awareness month, doing some individual interviews with leaders of different business units, and that was really interesting. The CFO provided some really good insights about scams that have happened that they even got caught with or almost got caught with, but even business units that are doing operational technologies that people don't really know much about, but they realize all of a sudden that cyber is a big part of every business unit.
And I think it's important Scott, when you mentioned, and I think back to the company I was with, we had our CEO actually talk about being phished with the wire transfer fraud scam. And it resonated throughout the organization, and people to the day when I was gone and left were still talking about, do you remember when he was phished and they almost sent the money and we had to do this and that? Getting that leadership engagement for a 2 or 3 minute video that they can give each week, so somebody from leadership just talking about those types of things, whether it's the importance or the effect or an actual example, and any communications from them, leadership involvement resonates significantly and lasts longer than it does if sometimes if Susie from accounting mentioned it. No, the CISO actually talked about a time that this happened, and this is how they protected the organization. Again, going back to what everybody's echoed, those real life instances and examples have a lot of power and weight that's long standing.
Awesome. Excellent points. We only have a minute or so before a lot of people are going to have to jump. So I'll come back for a quick round table, but just wanted to finish off a couple of things. First of all, I really appreciate Michael posting in the chat things that he found insightful, but also just want people to reflect on what are you going to do differently as a result of what we learned here today. Sometimes that helps you remember some of the things that you would take away from the session. We also have the community, the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum that everybody can join, and that's where we announce the next sessions and also where recordings are posted as well. And I'm actually going to do something different this time. I'm going to start a workshop on gamification, and specifically because that's what ClickArmor does, and a lot of people here have mentioned it. So I wanted to let people know here. I haven't put a date on it, but if anybody wants to help organize or participate in a session on gamification, I'd love to work with you on that. Next session I'm planning is actually on gamification as well. It'll be using gamification to drive real employee behavior change. So I'll be sharing insights around the reasons why gamification is useful, how it can be used, and some examples. So if you want to get a little deeper on gamification, I'd love to see you next 24th of September. So with that, I'm going to just do a quick roundtable to the panelists and see if you have any final thoughts for us. So I'll start with Theo, then Mitchell, then Ross, then Shelley.
All right.
Theo?
Well, to drive the cybersecurity culture within the organization, encourage communication, encourage employees to say something if they see something, ask questions if they're not sure, raise their hand if they see if they've made a mistake. Don't be afraid of the repercussions. And finally, communicate and educate their peers. Do it politely, but don't be afraid to share what you know with your colleagues.
Excellent. Thanks. I think then Ross?
If this is one of your first National Cybersecurity Awareness Months, I would say keep it somewhat simple and do what you can execute well. Don't try to do too much. I think less it could be more in this. If you can execute it well, it can set up a good program for the future.
Excellent. I can't remember if I said Mitchell or Shelley next. I'll say Shelley.
I think the only thing that I would wrap it up with is just to remember that we're reinforcing the message that cybersecurity is not just a month, really. Cybersecurity happens every day. So when we talk about cybersecurity month, sometimes we limit that unintentionally. It's really something that happens every day, but this month gives us a chance to focus on it. But I think also messaging out that it's an everyday thing. It's not just this month that we're focusing on cybersecurity. It happens 365 days.
Absolutely. And Mitchell, last word.
I would just say try to take as much time as you can to plan, set up a good, strong program for your month and for your year, and make sure that you are reiterating what's important to your company, what's important to your organization that you're supporting.
Well said. Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. If you do want more information about ClickArmor, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and or any other way that you can find me. And I would love to see collaboration from people. Please consider joining the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum community, sharing your lessons learned and challenges there. So with that, I'll hopefully see you next September 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And thanks again, everybody. Remember, engaged employees reduce risks, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.